All right, we are live. Hey guys, if you are on my Facebook, thank you so much for joining us. Alexa, off. Got to turn off my jams. I'm always jamming somehow, some way, somewhere. Today we're still kind of continuing, ending to an extent, the whole books that changed me, right? I told you guys I was going to switch directions this week on the way in what I was teaching on. And so we are in the mode of the books that I have looked at as thought process and changing in my world. And so today we're going to be talking about Infinite Game. And Infinite Game's a newer book. It came out in October, I think, of last year. It's by a guy by the name of Simon Sinek. If you've never dug into anything that Simon Sinek does, I would highly encourage that. He truly is a thought process leader, and especially with all of the things that have to do with future-minded, having the certainty of what you do. He wrote a book called Start With Why. It's one of my favorite books. I reference it all the time when I teach on mission, vision, and values. And so I know that it is Good Friday. And so my expectation is that you guys are all chilling, doing stuff with your family, enjoying today, and for what it's worth, and obviously understanding for the holiday purpose, what this means for a lot of people is a really big deal. So no expectations for you to be here. Celebrate, go to church, do your thing. And you can catch this later on video because it'll be sitting here on my feed. But I want to talk about Infinite Game. I want to keep the whole roll going, and I want to look in it for the reasons why I love this book, okay? And I want to give you some insight to it so that hopefully you would pick up the book and read it. I would encourage, out of all of the books that I've gotten a chance to speak about this week, I would say this is the one that I would encourage you all to read, okay? So all of the other ones, giving you some opportunity, just like take your time, blah, 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 blah. This one, I 100% highly encourage you to read. This is what I would say is like every day what I strive for in my business, this was able to put in words and help me understand and reflect on that. So we're going to talk about the Infinite Game. The whole concept of the book, when Simon was writing this book, his mindset is that the difference between an infinite game, right, and a finite game. Because obviously, if you're going to title a book Infinite Game, the opposite of it would be not a finite game, right? And so the idea of a finite game, games are played with the defined players, with fixed rules, and with an agreed upon objective. An infinite game is defined as known and unknown players. The rules are changeable, and the object is not to win. The object is to keep playing and keep perpetuating the game, right? And so the idea is that if you have two people playing a finite game, that's fine. There's going to be a winner. There's balance there. Winner, loser. If you have people playing an infinite game against another infinite game, that's going to be imbalance. There's going to be a balance there, right? If you think about Batman and the Joker, right? Those are two nemesis. They continue to perpetuate the game. There's not really a winner or a loser. It's the continuation of the game. A lot of superhero books are written this way. Where you find imbalance is when there's a finite player playing an infinite game, right? When there's a finite mindset playing an infinite game. And this is huge. And I want you to hear this. I actually wrote it down, so I'm not going to mess it up, although, I read terribly, so that might actually have some challenges. And so, hey, Patrick, man, I appreciate that. You're always so kind. And so here's the deal, the finite, infinite imbalance. And so this is huge when you hear what I'm about to say, and those who get it, their heads will explode. There is no such thing as winning in business. And likewise, there's no such thing as winning in life. We don't end life and go, I win, where's my trophy? Like, everything continues to move on. In business, right, there's no winner. Think about that. When I think about business, it is, and this is, I'm reading notes. When I think about business terms, it's almost as silly as baseball, right? The baseball numbers. You're watching baseball games and they start giving statistics, and it's like, this guy is the best batter post full moon with the low tide against left-handed pitchers after the fourth inning. It's all these crazy, like, just nuts version of statistics to help us to understand, like, oh yeah, this guy is the best. When all of these things are filled up, and it's like, that's not real. And I think in business we do the same damn thing. We go, well, I'm number one in my region when you compare me to other agents who are this, or I'm number one salesperson in my company when you really look at the numbers for conversion ratio, right? We do this all the time. We create our own version of trophies, and we take them and we're like, we're the best. Look at us. And so there's a lot of imbalance that happens, I think, in business. And we end up playing this catch-up game all the time when we're always playing a finite version of what is an infinite game. And he draws a comparison actually to the Vietnam War, that we would win so many battles but yet lose the war. And it's because there was an imbalance. We were looking at it from winner or loser. They were looking at it from a process of they were going to continue to play the game and to exhaust us and our resources, our time, our energy, our mindset. And so when you think about this, guys, business, when we're playing business at a finite level, we're losing already, because in our head we've created this space to where we get a trophy. And the answer is we don't get a trophy. We have to continue to resolve ourselves, reframe ourselves and everything. And so I want to look at this and kind of give you a couple of the examples from the book. So when Simon looks at it, he talks about 5 things. He says, to be in this infinite mindset, you've got to be able to have 5 things. And I'm going to go over here, flip my chart, fools despise wisdom and instruction, the proverb for the day. So when I look at it, there's 5 things that he talks about. The very first thing that he talks about is a just cause, okay? Just cause. So the idea behind a just cause, guys, well, there's a few things, but one of the most interesting pieces to the puzzle is that when you look at a just cause, it's inclusive. It's a moment to include everybody. So we take this self-interest and it takes a back seat to the cause, right? The cause becomes greater. And so we're going to play an infinite game. And when we apply this to our life or to our businesses, whatever it looks like, when we really look at it and we move into that frame of developing a just cause, we will do everything to advance the cause more than we will advance our self-interest. And a lot of times where the infinite game comes into play is in the just cause. Sorry, all the time when the infinite game comes into play is with the just cause. The way that we play finite games is finding ways in which we have a win in the win column, right? And now at the end of the day, there are victories that we can play, that we can celebrate, but they're only for the moment so that we can continue to move. So don't hear me say that there's not a need to have victories, but in a just cause, there's no win. It's just continuing to play the game and putting your purpose out there. And one of the things that he looks at a just cause, okay? So we're going to look at a couple things. When he looks at and he talks about a just cause, he talks about a couple of things. The very first thing, a just cause must be for something, okay? So it's got to be for something. And this for something that he says is it's got to be affirmative and optimistic, okay? Affirmative and optimistic for that for something. It's got to be inclusive, which means it's open to all of those who would like to contribute. This is a hard one, okay? Inclusive. A lot of us don't think with an inclusive mindset because there's a little bit of selfish tinge in a lot of things that we do. To be able to include anybody who wants to play, we've got to put our own self aside, right? That's why the just cause is so important, because we can put our own self-interest aside and allow the cause to maintain the head seat. And then that gives us the opportunity to be inclusive. And I think about it in this way. When you look at what we would naturally choose, if I were in a hiring process and I didn't go through a system for hiring, I'm more than likely going to hire people who look, act, and think just like me. If I'm moving towards a just cause, I'm going to be inclusive for way more people than just myself. And that's going to make me better because I'm going to get a full gamut of the ones who think for the just cause versus think like me. And it helps us to be able to move forward. Okay. Second thing, third thing rather, service oriented. Service oriented. Okay. Service oriented. And so that's really for the primary benefit of others. If we're really moving towards a just cause, it's going to be about the primary benefit of others. Okay. Last thing there, not the last thing, the last thing is resilient. So it's going to be resilient. So for a just cause, it has to be resilient. It's got to be able to endure political, technical, and cultural change. So I want you to kind of think through that. It's got to be able to endure political, technological, and cultural change. So if we're moving towards a just cause and we really measure our lives or our businesses by this, and again, I talk a lot of things in the business vein, but if we're talking about the business vein in this space, and I have a business that I want to always be able to move forward, I need to find a just cause so that then I continue to move in the forward direction and for a just cause to be resilient, for my business to move into that just cause phrase, what I've done is that no matter what happens, and obviously we're living in a phrase, we're living in that phrase, no matter what happens. COVID is a no matter what happens moment for a lot of us, for all of us. My business is resilient. It's more than likely because I've got a great, strong mission, vision, values, and within that is a just cause that I'm moving forward, okay? The last thing is it's got to be idealistic, okay? This is hard way for a lot of us to think, idealistic. But the idea behind that is that it's big, bold, and ultimately unachievable. When I look at mission, vision, values, this is more than likely the biggest challenge that most people have with creating a vision statement, is because to be idealistic is to have that juxtaposed thought that, like, I want to move towards this as if I can conquer it, but I'm always going to be moving towards it knowing that I may not ever achieve it. And so it's ultimately unachievable in a lot of things. If we've truly picked a just cause, we're always going to be moving in the direction of this main really awesome cause, this passion. And if it's big enough to be able to really perpetuate us into an infinite game, then more than likely it's going to be unachievable. And so we've got to be able to keep that in mind. And that's hard for us to be able to wrap our brains around because it's such a juxtaposed thought. It's hard for us as humans, right, in our brains, as finite as they are, because they do have a beginning and an end, in our brains to be able to get into that space of like thinking, to create something that I can always move towards, that I'm never going to achieve, but every little thing that I do in the stepping towards it is going to be satisfaction. It's really hard to do that, and especially in this culture, instant gratification is a big deal, and a lot of us are living in that space with instant gratification, right? So we've got to be able to really, really root ourselves in understanding these things. So to have a just cause, it's got to be for something, it's got to be inclusive, it's got to be service-oriented, it's got to be resilient, and it's got to be idealistic. If we can really measure our businesses by these tunes, if we can measure our life by these tunes, I believe it changes everything. And I do think that you create a stronger legacy than you ever realized you're capable of doing. And so that's what I loved about this little moment of this book, really digging in, understanding what we're capable of doing when we play a game that's longer than our lifetime, right? That's what I love about this. Legacy is a big word of mine. I don't know if you've figured that out or not, but I want to leave a legacy that's much stronger than the accomplishments, the achievements. The achievements they will pale in comparison to what I'm able to do by leaving a legacy behind. So just cause, that's what he says. To be able to be in the infinite game, you've got to be able to have that just cause. The second thing that he talks about, which I love that it's the second thing, is a trusting team. Out of the gate, trusting team, okay? A trusting team is really interesting because when you think about a trusting team, if I've really built the space to have a true trusting team, what I really want out of my business is to be able to end up creating profit, right? To generate profit. I really want to be able to create and generate profit. That's just hopefully why you got into business. And yet, if that's really my goal, I can always do things to move in that direction, but I will always be working harder than I realize. When we understand that leaders are not responsible for the results, right? When we create this idea of a trusting team, leaders are not responsible for the results. Leaders are responsible for the people who are responsible for the results, okay? A lot of us are fragmented in our thought processes when we're building our teams and we're building towards profit. We think, I need to manage the outcome of X, Y, and Z. And that's just not true. Leaders are responsible for the people who are responsible for the outcome, okay? Leaders are responsible for the people who are responsible for the outcome. I wonder what it would look like if many of us leaders changed our thought processes only to that, right? When you look at this moment of accountability, you look at this moment of like moving towards my goals, you look at this moment of like checkboxing the activity list, what would it look like if we leaders changed our thought processes and got out of the mindset of, are all the boxes being checked? Am I holding you accountable to the activities and the tasks? What would it look like if we changed that and we looked at ourselves as being responsible for the people who are responsible for the results? We might find the ability to unlock exponential growth in our businesses when we do that. This is really difficult. And I'll tell you, because most of us who are leaders in anything, we have control issues. Control issues. I 100% have control issues. One of my biggest challenges every single day is that I would take that little moment of I can do this and put it on the back seat and allow everybody else to have the blessing of being able to accomplish things in their own way for the greater good for which we've created that cause, right? For the greater good of what we're doing. When I step out of the driver's seat and I allow somebody else to be, regardless of the score that they get, okay, regardless of the score that they get, if I'm able to step outside of myself and allow other people to get into the driver's seat and that they get the blessing of the achievement, that truly enables people to be future-minded with you. If we are always the one who is carrying the vision and executing the vision, and sometimes executing the vision is telling people exactly how to do it, regardless of how we sell it to them, if we don't allow people to do the things that they have been assigned or that we've trusted them to do the way that they want to do it, as long as they're moving towards a just cause, right? They're with us in the infinite game. You've hired people to be with you. If we allow them to do it in that way, we've released them. If we don't, they will always forever look at you to be the person filling in the blank, and you'll never be able to leverage yourself out, and you will always hit a ceiling. You will end up playing in a finite field when you don't build the trusting teams. And the way people trust you is to give things away. We cannot be controlling. We're responsible for the people who are responsible for the results. And one of the things that this creates, and I talked about this yesterday with the idea of behind the book, give and take, is trust. What we've done is we've created trust and we've created safety, right? We've created a safety, which is one of the biggest needs that everybody has, is to be able to feel safe. And I promise you this, when you have this moment of advancing that purpose, right, having that cause, and you're championing the people, the profits will come. If you truly are falling in line with what it is that you really have, the goals that you have and where you want to go, it'll all fall in line. So trusting teams is a big piece of the puzzle. And behind that, I really want to make sure and reiterate again that we are responsible for the people who are responsible. I think a lot of us get mixed up in the thought process of, I'm just responsible for what the results are. And that's just not true. If I am, then I will always be the ceiling to everybody else. This is a moment right now where I either create infinite growth, if I'm going to play the infinite game, or I create a ceiling. And the ceiling is always going to be me if I don't allow people to expand. Sweet. So that's why I love it. I love this. I love this thought processes. Hopefully this is meaning something to you. Hopefully this is coming back into your world somehow. The third thing that he says is that to be able to play the infinite game, you got to have a worthy rival. I'm a big fan of this. I like having a worthy rival. I'm pretty competitive in a lot of things, but my competition, why I love the idea of a worthy rival, and he put it into words for me that I didn't realize. I could never really put it into an understanding of why I love to be competitive and why I understood why I like that worthy rival, why I like having competition with somebody. When you think about this, and this is just kind of the words that he put it, a worthy rival helps us to be better because it points out our weaknesses, and a worthy rival inspires us to take an attitude of improvement. Okay? I'm going to write that. This is from the book. A worthy rival, let me make sure I'm doing this right. A worthy rival inspires us to take an attitude of improvement. It's funny that this is a really duh statement, and I think it's just interesting how many of the things that I read end up being just moments of reflection so that I can reorder my thoughts into a more succinct system to be able to operate from, because I think that there's a lot of freedom when you have systems. It was really awesome for me to read this line because when you think about it, why do all of us have a worthy rival? Man, I just think about the days when I was in Little League football, okay? McDonough Cougars. So any of our people out there, the McDonough Cougars. And the South Clayton Eagles. That was our biggest deal. Jason McNeil, I hope you're watching this one day. I can remember, and it's so funny, like Jason McNeil was a worthy rival. I loved playing football, and I loved playing against the South Clayton Eagles because they were always the ones that we were competing against each other. But what was beautiful about it is that when I knew that game was coming, I was looking at everything that I could do to get better, right? And I'm just a little kid at that point. How much stronger will it be as I'm an adult and I can actually align things in a better fashion to understand when I have a worthy rival, when I have somebody that I am able to look at in that kind of rivalry mindset, not in the sense that I want to beat you, but a worthy rival that helps inspire me to have an attitude of improvement. If I sit on my high horse, if I'm the best, and I look at it, I'm always just going to figure out how can I continue to be the best or manipulate information to sound like I am the best. But when I look at myself as having a worthy rival, somebody who's doing it, knocking it out of the park, winning every single day, having victories, just continuing to go, and that's something that I could aspire to, gosh, that's going to be a rival in me to say, well, if they are there and that's what I want, then I've got to be better than that, which means I've always got to be continuing to move in that direction. I think when I look at people who are really good in this thought process, I don't know if that's good. I think good's the right word to use. But I think about Gary Keller, and just because that's in my world, right? I'm in real estate, but I look at what he did when he was creating the new version of who we are right now, like a technology company. And it was so funny. In 2015, when he first announced it, everybody made fun of him. And one of the articles was like, this is the beginning of the end for Keller Williams, because Gary was so serious about this. What was beautiful about that is Gary dug in his heels. He understood the future concept. He was fighting for more than just a win. He was really fighting for an infinite game. He was looking to how he can make sure and preserve the business of real estate for what it was worth. And we had some worthy rivals. And as he was looking to develop technology and develop it for us agents to be able to do better at our job, everything he did, he looked at them and understood, if they're winning, how can we get +1, right? How can we do what they're doing and get +1? And I think that's a great thought process. And I don't think a lot of us consider that when we have a worthy rival, it's not about the win. A worthy rival will always keep us in competition. Like, there's always another episode of Batman and Joker. There's always another episode of like Guardians of the Galaxy. There's always another episode, because there's always a worthy rival that causes us to be introspective and understand how we can continue to be better. A worthy rival inspires us to an attitude of improvement and a continual improvement. And that's what I love about it. It's just giving me the opportunity to put into words what I already felt. And I think a lot of us, if you're watching this, more than likely are curious about this little moment. And I hope you open up the book and I hope you read it, because it makes sense if we're moving into the direction of a just cause. So there's more than likely an antithesis or somebody doing it better, or whatever that looks like. There's always something out there that we could attach to a worthy rival and see what we can do to be able to grow, because it keeps us in a continual attitude of improvement. And in all honesty, it keeps the game in play. If I have a worthy rival, it keeps the game in play. Nothing more is worse than when you're playing pickup sports and your big brothers, they all decide that they're going to go they're all going to be on the same team, and the little brothers are all on the same team. And so you have to instill a run rule, because it's like, well, you're going to wipe the floor with us. This is no fun anymore. I don't want to play this game. A worthy rival keeps the game going. Okay? It always gives us that moment to keep the game going. Okay? Worthy rival. Number 4 that he talks about is to be existentially flexible. Okay? Existentially flexible, which means you have the capacity to make dramatic strategic shift. Existentially flexible. Like, I am able to pivot at any given point. And here's the real interesting point about this. I love that this book came out in October. I think it was very timely that people would pick it up and begin to read it, because right now we're living in a world of being existentially flexible. If you are not right now, currently, existentially flexible, you are absolutely in danger of losing everything that you have. If you are not right now existentially flexible, you're right now in danger of losing everything you have. And I'm not trying to paint the doom and gloom story of it, but I am being very serious that the inevitability of an end comes when we are digging in our heels to not reframe our world to change. And I would encourage you, I may even type this in or have Crystal send this out to anybody who's on the call, but Simon Sinek did another video recently. Somebody was asking him about the infinite game, and they're like, in these unprecedented times, how would you say that we fill in the blank with how they kind of bring into those business conversations, those interviews? And he said he struggled with this idea of like, in these gosh, these unprecedented times. And he said, my challenge is that in my brain, I don't think these are unprecedented times. This has happened before. When internet came, businesses won and businesses lost because of their ability to be flexible. When Netflix came, businesses won, businesses lost because of their way to be flexible. Right now, it just seems to have sped up because of what's happening as a pandemic. It's a little bit different of a feel than the slow process of one industry consuming another. So when you look at it, this isn't unprecedented. It is those who have the will to continue to move forward, those who are already forward-thinking thinkers, those are the guys who will continue to move forward. Those will be the guys who continue to gain. And people will lose in this process. Those who are existentially flexible will not. And one of the things that he says in the book, and I think it's a little bit dramatic to help us prove a point and get us into a thought change process. He says, if you're unwilling, if you're not willing to blow up your company, the market will do it for you. That was super interesting to me. If you're not willing to blow up your company, the market will do it for you. And he said the other day, because as you can imagine, Simon Sinek is doing a lot of stuff, writing books, and he does a lot of tours, and he gets to do a lot of speaking. He said, like, that ship has sailed. Like, if you're waiting for your chance to be able to earn a stage, to be able to speak for thousands and thousands of people, that ship has sailed. Everything has changed. And so today we get the opportunity to change and reframe what we're doing, rewrite job descriptions, rewrite our processes, think thoroughly about what's happening, and move towards these moments of change, or the market will do it for us. And that's just true. It's not doom and gloom. It really is finding ways to be true. And I think about all the people who have already found ways to do this. Justin Keller is a buddy of mine, and he's writing a blog. I'll make sure this is posted somewhere. Sorry, not a blog, a podcast. He's doing a podcast. I'll make sure you guys are connected to it. And it's called, I'm going to butcher it. It's Brilliance. I can't think of the other side of it. He's actually collecting and gathering these stories of the people who you would have think are in the losing game, right? Movie theaters right now are being dealt a hand that's like kind of shitty, right? They got to shut down when their whole business model is around gathering hundreds of people together to be able to sit and enjoy a movie, to be entertained, shutting it down. One of his first episodes, he had a guy on who owned a movie theater that overnight thought, I've got a big ass parking lot. I'm going to make this a drive-in movie theater. And so he had a drive-in movie theater. And it's really interesting to think in that way, that mindset. There's many food companies that were restaurants that like, hey, come and enjoy us, that have flipped their model to be a delivery food joint. And now they're finding ways to which they can survive and thrive because they have become, instead of a waiter, now I'm a delivery boy, but I'm still enjoying what I'm doing. I'm still moving forward, right? So there's a different world of it, right? Those of us who continue to think through forward change, how to reframe our world and to pivot, we will come out of this and be good. Those of us who don't or are unwilling to do that, you're going to have challenges. And that's just true. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. I'm not going to pretend like it's not going to happen. I think it's great that he speaks in such stern language on this particular issue, is that like, if you're not unwilling to blow up your company, the market will do it for you. We were all just dealt that hand. All of us, I don't care what industry you're in, we were all dealt that hand to where there is some potential chaos happening in every single business that's out there. So love that. To be able to be in that infinite game, you've got to be able to existentially flex. You got to be existentially flexible. The last thing that he says, which is one of my favorite things, he says you got to be able to have the courage to lead, which is to do the right thing always. Worthy rival. I'm doing a terrible job. So existentially flexible. And the last thing is to be able to have the courage to lead. I like that he actually said it this way, the courage to lead. He didn't say to be an infinite leader, you have to be able to lead. You have to have the courage to lead, because if we're playing an infinite game, that means that you're not measuring things by the world standards, right? If we're playing the infinite game, we're not measuring ourselves based off of the world standards and based off of the things that the way they've always been done. The way they've always been done is a disease, I think, in a lot of ways, that we continue to do activities and tasks instead of building relationships. What would you do to change the way you did business if you had the opportunity to examine all of it and to call things right and wrong and move into the direction of right? Most of us have that ability. Most of us have done that. It's the courage to be able to be counterculture or across the grain for the way everybody else thinks. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be the person in the spotlight all day long. So we've got to be able to, in this just cause process, right, take a backseat to the cause and understand that no matter what happens, if I'm able to move the needle forward in the direction of this, I'm playing an infinite game that gives me a much more meaningful life, a much more meaningful business. And I've got to be able to have the courage to lead. And I like this quote that's from the book. It says, the courage to lead fundamentally means you're willing to be open-minded, to consider that maybe, just maybe, the way you think the world works may be wrong. And just because everybody's doing it doesn't mean it's right. I would guess that all of us have run into this situation in our life. That when we examine what's happening, we can look at it and go, man, there's just something wrong here. If we are truly a leader, right, and we want to play the infinite game, we want to play something that's bigger than having a trophy of best. And we're looking at this from the just cause, the inspiring team, to having a worthy rival, to being existentially flexible. And that vein, to be able to have the courage to lead is really difficult. And we've all taken a glimpse of that at some point in our lives. Some of us have chosen to fight, and some of us have chosen just to kind of go with the flow. There's a point in our lives where when we want to do more, if you want to truly be in that infinite mindset, it's going to take courage to go, this isn't right, I'm going to do something about it. Finding that just cause helps us to be able to have courage. And I think that's what's really interesting. When I look at and I talk about mission, vision, values all the time, our ability to say yes and to say no is real simple when we're moving in the direction for how we want to drive our businesses, how we want to drive our life, how we want to drive our nonprofits, how we want to drive our boards, how we want to drive our stuff forward. When we have clarity around mission, vision, and values, it's easier to be this courageous leader because we can say yes and we can say no, and we have no bones about what the world thinks about us because we're moving in the direction that we have resolved in our souls that is right. And so I want you to think about this, guys. There's imbalance when we move into an infinite game playing field and we're playing a finite game. There is imbalance, and we will be exhausted and we will be frustrated and we will always be searching for a new way to be best. And I want to end this little bit in this quote that that's from the book, and it says this: and infinite-minded leaders understand that the best is not a permanent state. Instead, they strive to be better. Better suggests a journey of constant improvement and makes us feel like we're being invited to contribute our talents and energies to make progress in that journey. The infinite-minded leaders understand that best is not a permanent state. Instead, they strive to be better. Better suggests a journey of constant improvement and makes us feel like we're being invited to contribute our talents and energies to make progress in that journey. I'm telling you, the old cliche phrase, and some of you may have heard it, some of you may have not, and I say it all the time in my office. People talk about being the best. I was like, I never want to be the best. I just always want to be better. We go by the hashtag better together because like that better is just a big word in our world. I hope that everyone listening will pick up this book and read it. I hope that it gives you a desire to see change in your world. I hope that it moves you into the space of living meaningfully. And I truly hope that it just inspires you to start looking at things through a different lens and understanding the causes that you can join and see things move forward. See things continually move. See things as not, at some point, I get to put a big trophy on my table. I may never get a trophy, but there's always going to be victories when we play the infinite game. Okay. So that's my summary of this book. This is the reasons why I love this book. This is the things that have changed my life in this book. I'm telling you, what I liked most about it from the very get-go was that I have a lot of these thoughts and I have a lot of these ideas. It really just began to line them up for me to be able to understand, like, okay, this is who I am. I can be systematic about that and make sure that I can pull as many people along this ride as I can with me. So it was a good, it took my jumbled thoughts of benevolence and it able to create a system of why I'm doing what I'm doing. It drove further into my why. So I would love to be able to hear from you guys. I know that I usually ask for 4 or 5. Obviously, we've only got about 6 or 7 people total on the call. It is Good Friday. I do apologize. I didn't realize when I scheduled this out, but it was too late to really start to pull the strings away. And so I just wanted to come through and finish out the week, make sure that we got this information out there. But if you had anything, I'd love to hear it. I won't wait around too long like I usually do. But if you had anything that you wanted to toss out there, go ahead and drop those in the comment. I'll give it a few seconds, but again, I won't keep it like I usually do, where when I have 30 or 40 people on here and I make 4 or 5 of you speak. But I would like to hear if any of you have anything. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Obviously, if you're sitting in the Facebook, you can toss it in the chat. If you're in Google, you can unmute yourself if you want, or Crystal can read your comments if you're out there. But yeah, love to hear if you have any comments. If you're just jumping in here, we're discussing and talking about the book Infinite Game. I would highly recommend that all of you buy the book. I would highly recommend that all of you read the book. My executive assistant is on the call. She's going to send out a little bit of a follow-up from this. And so if you want to make sure that you get the follow-up, get the notes, kind of get a little bit of what's going on, a couple of the links that I said that I would get you connected to, Justin Keller's podcast, Simon Sinek's video about these unprecedented times. I'll make sure that those links are in there as well. So if you want that stuff, you can private message me so you don't have to drop your email in the chat box. So you can just go ahead and send me a private message. Make sure that you mention that it's about the Infinite Game, and I'll make sure you get those notes. But yeah, man, this book is my brain, and I love it. And it's just fun to think that there are people out there in the world who are like-minded, who really care about championing a cause. Because I say it all the time, I truly believe that I have an opportunity to change the world. I'm just crazy enough to think that way, and so I'm going to give it a shot. This book really kind of systematizes that for me to be able to be more processed and more purposeful about it. Hey guys, nobody really piped in, nobody tossed in. Very valuable information. You're welcome, Mr. Sean. Y'all are awesome. If there's anything else that you guys need, by all means, you're always welcome to reach out to me. I love this. I live this. I do this every single day. And so y'all go be amazing. Take some time off. Everybody needs some rest. I need to take that pill and swallow it. I've been going 100 miles an hour for a whole month now at this point. Let's just make sure that we're giving back to ourselves and finding that there's health in every single thing that we do. We've got to still have counterbalance in it all. Okay? Read the book. This is the one that I will say you got to read. 1,000 miles, a million miles in 1,000 years that we did on Monday. Awesome book. The Carpenter by John Gordon. We did Give and Take by Adam Grant. We did, I'm missing one. We did The Infinite Game, and then, we did Atomic Habits. So those are the books. I would highly encourage you all to put it on your reading list. Next week, we're going to have a little bit of fun with a couple of reading books. And I'm going to do an interview with one of my friends who I think we find so much wisdom in the small things. And so we're going to be doing some of those little interviews. So y'all be awesome. Go have an amazing day. We're wonderful. Thank you for chiming in. Be awesome.